Welcome to Orbitals Presents The Astrology of the Unknown, a special true crime podcast where we unravel unsolved mysteries and explore every theory written in the stars. So, I'm William Holloway, and this is my good friend and co-host.
Hi, I'm Joseph Mulhollen.
This is different than a typical Orbitals episode. I'm like calling it the backdoor pilot. Like remember the episode of the Golden Girls where it was like really an episode of Empty Nest?
Yes.
So it's like that, but we're learning what this is going to be, and so here we are. I'm really excited about doing this. I've been wanting to do something like this for a really long time.
Me too. Me too. And we've had a lot of ideas for podcasts over the years, but like none of them have really panned out. I feel like this idea really sparks both of our interests in a way that I think is going to be really cool to explore. So I'm excited about this.
Well, it makes sense. You have a Scorpio moon, I have a Scorpio moon,
Oh
so
yeah. Why don't you explain to our listeners what the premise is of this project that we're embarking on because it's pretty exciting.
so we are going to be looking at unsolved cases. We're going to go through all the facts, tell you the story, everything that we have found in our research. And then we're going to look at the appropriate astrology charts. I want to say, first of all, this is for entertainment purposes only. I
Oh
am
yeah.
not a forensic astrologer, although there are forensic astrologers out there that have been known to assist law enforcement, and they use similar techniques to what I'll be using today. I just want to be able to test out the different theories. What makes sense? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? What seems more likely based on what the astrology is telling us? A lot of people probably know the story, at least within the last couple of weeks, because a very popular Netflix documentary dropped, I think last month. And so this has really reignited the case. So let's get into it. This is wild that you've never heard this. All right.
Yeah, I didn't even know it took place on a boat. So
Yep.
I-
All right. So Amy Lynn Bradley was born on May 12th, 1974, in Petersburg, Virginia, to parents Ron and Iva. A few years later, Ron Jr. was born, but he would go by Brad Bradley. So from here forward, we're calling him Brad Bradley. Amy was extremely outgoing. She was the life of the party, very athletic. She would brag about how good of a swimmer she was, and she even worked as a lifeguard for a while. When Amy was in college, she started dating women, in secret anyway. Amy was known to have boyfriends too, but according to her first girlfriend, Kat, Amy felt she needed to put on a performance. She even pushed for Kat to have a boyfriend too. And
Oh.
it's what we call this in the gay community, beards.
Well, I wonder what it is I wonder what it is in like the lesbian community. Skirts?
I mean,
Or I guess it could still be beards. Oh no, I don't know.
Kat spent a lot of time with the Bradleys, and even lived with them for a summer. This was all while they were in the closet. She has said that the Bradleys were very, very close, one of the most loving families she's ever met. She said there was a lot of laughing. She said she was jealous of how much they loved each other.
Wow.
Here, yeah. She did say that Amy was putting on a show for the family, that she loved her family a lot, but it was really important to impress them, to make them happy. And so she said that she got a different Amy than the rest of the family did. So while Amy was still very outgoing, she was much more serious and private.
Classic code switching. So,
Yeah, totally. So sometime in the mid 90s, Amy comes out to her parents, and it does not go well. Ron, her father, writes Kat a not very nice letter, letting her know that he's not happy that she lied to them, that she came into their home. He feels betrayed. It was nasty, and it actually affected Amy and Kat's relationship, and they ended up breaking up shortly after all of that.
wow.
Yeah. Amy continued to date women, but she also dated men, and it's not totally clear if she identified as a lesbian to her family because her brother kept saying that she was bisexual. So all of her girlfriends would say otherwise. So, a few years after all this, Amy graduates college with a degree in physical education, and she's dating a different woman at this time named Molly. But there is drama because Amy confesses to Molly that she kissed another girl while she was drunk. So she sends, now this is in January of 98. She sends Molly a literal message in a bottle expressing her
Wow.
regret. Yeah, isn't that crazy? She expresses her regret in a handwritten letter. It reads, Molly, I hurt you deeper than you can ever forget. I'm not asking you to forget because that will never happen. I just wanted to ask you if you could find it in your heart to forgive me. I feel like there is an ocean between us, like I'm on a desert island waiting for you to rescue me. A message in a bottle, my only hope. I miss you, Molly. Save me, please. Stranded, Amy.
That's wild.
I know, right?
Shut up.
That is some foreshadowing. You couldn't even write that. It would
Oh
be
my God.
hokey if you wrote that, right?
That is weird as hell. That is so freaking weird. I am locked in now.
I mean, and this is just the beginning. Around March, Molly and Amy start talking about possibly mending their relationship. Also, at this time, Ron wins a cruise ship for him and Iva to the Caribbean through his work. They find out that they're allowed to invite their two adult children. At this point, Amy is 23 and Brad is 21, Brad Bradley, 21. The only thing is that they have to share this tiny room. Amy does not want to go. I mean, who the hell would? I don't know. Have you ever been on a cruise?
No, I have no desire. No desire. Cruises always feel like a diarrhea situation, and I like to stay away from diarrhea situations.
Yeah, yeah,
Call me crazy.
yeah. I'm not really into poop stuff, so
Yeah, me neither. Everyone I know who's been on a cruise always talks about how like the food's bad, it's gross, and like somebody always ends up getting diarrhea. And I just don't, I don't know. I'd rather stay home.
or just go to the island, fly to the island that you want to
Yeah.
visit. I don't know. Amy does not want to go.
Yeah.
But they eventually convince her. So it's March 1998. Picture the Clinton Lewinsky scandal is unfolding in the headlines. Titanic is the top movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Wow. This is crazy.
I know, right? And Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On is like the biggest song in the world. It's playing on a loop on every radio station. I haven't forgot because I still feel like I hear it every time I leave the house.
Yeah.
You know that at some point that song was played on that boat.
Oh, absolutely.
Royal Caribbean's cruise liner Rhapsody of the Seas departs San Juan, Puerto Rico on March 21st with a scheduled visit to Aruba, Curacao, St. Martin, and St. Thomas. On March 23rd, Rhapsody of the Seas docks in Aruba, where Amy and her family spend the day on the island getting sunburned and lost before returning to the cruise liner for a Mardi Gras themed pool party that night.
Ooh.
Yeah, they get super dressed up.
Wow. Wait, is that her?
Yeah, this is Amy. This was like one of the last photos.
Is
This
that
might have
Brad
been,
Bradley?
that's Brad Bradley. I think these are her, yeah, these are her parents. So this was
Okay.
taken on the boat. So while the ship takes sail to Curacao, the Bradley family attend the party, starting with a dinner. Early in the night, Amy's family is teasing her because it seems like the staff is very fond of her. Many of the staff are flirting with her, seeing like when they get to Curacao, if they can take her out, they want to take her here, take her there. There was a lot of attention on Amy early on in the night. So everyone's dancing to the cruise ship band Blue Orchid. Brad and Amy especially are enjoying the band and are even seen dancing with the band leader and bass player. His name is Alistair Douglas. But his nickname at the time was Yellow because I guess at one point he had yellow hair. Another thing is that, and this just kind of gives you a sense of like how, I mean, it sounds like it was a long night of drinking. At one point, around midnight, Brad almost starts a fight because he's seen dancing with a married woman. The parents are kind of like over it, and so they retire to go upstairs around 1 a.m. About an hour or so later, Ron wakes up and he goes downstairs to check on his adult children. He sees Brad still dancing with some women. And apparently, she makes really good friends with a female bartender, and they even made plans to go out at some point when she got off. I don't know if that means right after or that day in Curacao somewhere. I think there was like a club or something she wanted to take her to, but that's all hearsay based on a conversation Brad overheard. So he's not fully sure. But he says that when the woman got off, he never saw her again. Anyway, Ron sees that everyone seems good. He goes back to bed. Around 3:35 in the morning, Brad returns to the room.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, 3:35.
Brad Bradley.
Brad. Well, they were in their early 20s, you know.
That's true.
But Amy was out later. She doesn't come back. Maybe 5 minutes after him, she follows him. Now remember, they're all sharing this tiny room. So they go to the balcony. It's Bradley, and his sister Amy. They're smoking cigarettes, and just kind of talking about the night. And she tells him that Yellow tried to touch her inappropriately, and she had to tell him to back off. He also said, though, that she didn't seem that concerned. She was just kind of like, whatever, just mentioning it. He also said that she mentioned she needed to buy cigarettes soon. I'm assuming because it's 1998 that you could probably buy cigarettes on the boat. Um,
Probably.
yeah. After they talk for like 5, 10 minutes, he goes to bed, but she wants to stay on the balcony because she said she's not feeling that well. So he shuts the balcony door and he goes to bed and she stays out there. Now, for visualization, time wise, it's like, okay, we said it was like what, like 3:30. Now it's almost 4 in the morning. The boat was docking at this point, or beginning to dock in Curacao. It takes about 90 minutes. So if you can imagine like a port, a big
Yeah.
cruise ship comes in, they got to open the thing and then they got to do the thing, stop, do this, whatever. You can just imagine all these steps, and it's the whole process that takes time. But they said it was like between 4 and 5:30 is about the amount of time they were docking. So they were like not that far from land. Between 5:15 and 5:30 in the morning, Ron wakes up briefly to observe Amy laying on the recliner on the balcony. He sees her legs and he sees her holding a cigarette, and he thinks, okay, good, everyone's here, and he goes back to bed. Something wakes Ron up at 6 a.m. He doesn't know what it is, but something jolts him up at 6 a.m. and Amy is not on the balcony. Her personal items are left behind, including her sandals, but her cigarettes and lighter are gone, and it looks like she changed her shirt. So the shirt she'd been wearing was taken off.
Weird.
And yeah, very weird. And the balcony door was ajar.
Okay.
At this point, the boat is about docked. Ron isn't thinking the worst necessarily, but he doesn't have the best feeling because he's thinking, Amy's not usually a morning person, so why isn't she here? He thinks, well,
Yeah.
maybe she went to get coffee. But he's also concerned because she'd been up drinking all night. I think somebody said they knew she had at least 11 beers over.
Ugh.
I mean, that's a
I have
lot.
a hangover just hearing that.
I know, right? I'm like, let me drink some water.
Yeah. I gotta hydrate for this story.
I know. I'm like, oh my God, I need some Advil already. So he doesn't wake anybody up, but he starts going around looking for her, and he quickly realizes she's nowhere anywhere he thinks she might be. So he comes
Right.
back and he wakes everyone up. They go to report her missing. Apparently, they come in real hot, because they're freaking out. And the crew is like, chill. She's an adult. I mean, that's not, they don't say that, but they're basically like, you're freaking out. They're like,
Yeah.
it's still early in the morning. They basically wanted them to announce over the loudspeaker, like, can Amy Bradley please come to the front desk? And they weren't going to do that. They said, continue looking for her. People are still sleeping. If you can't find her, we will make an announcement in 30 minutes. Well, in 30 minutes, everybody was getting off the ship. And that was the
Right.
whole point. They were like, we want to stop. We were like, we want to make an announcement. And can you not let everyone off the ship before? Because, someone might have her. And it sounds like they saw the Bradleys as being dramatic. They're thinking of all the other 2,000 tourists or however many people are on this huge boat.
Right.
But when they finally make the announcement, it's 7:50 and most of the people were off the boat.
Ugh.
Yeah. So then they do a full onboard search conducted by the crew. But something that they found out later was that the crew was instructed to search their own rooms. So there was nobody really to like keep anyone accountable for anything.
The crew only had to search their own that doesn't make any sense.
I know. I know. It's pretty
Like
crazy.
these are things that, like you're saying this stuff, but in hindsight, it's so easy to be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they wait so long to make the announcement? Why would they just tell their crew to search their own rooms? But like, I don't know. And you think about if you're actually in those situations while they're happening. I mean, I guess like sometimes you just don't think about that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is boggling my mind that they would do that.
I know. It's really wild, the reaction from the cruise line. At some point in the afternoon, an aerial search began. Alistair Douglas, aka Yellow, was questioned and his room was searched. He claimed to have gone to his room at 1 a.m. He took a polygraph. It came out inconclusive. I mean,
Hmm.
so these pictures of Amy, this picture of Amy with her brother, and there were a couple others of just Amy that were taken. It was one of those event photograph booth type things where you get your professional photo taken, and then the next day you can go to the store and you can
Yeah.
purchase the photos, right?
Yep. Yep.
They were like, well, we can use that photo to like say, have you seen this person? Well, they went to go to the store and all of her photos had already been purchased or taken. So like someone else had taken her photos. And the photographer was like, I remember developing these and I don't know where they went. So maybe someone stole them.
Oh,
That's a weird thing, right?
that is very weird.
Yeah.
But there's like they don't like does a transaction need to take place?
It makes me wonder if they maybe were just I don't know that they purchased them. They might have just given them. If it were, 2025, they'd certainly be not giving them to you. You'd have to purchase them. But it was 1998, so maybe they just gave the photos to whoever.
Well, did they question the person who was like handing out the photos to see who, you know what I mean? Like,
I know because I'm trying to get a sense of like what are we looking at? Is this like a booth? Is this like a store? Is it just like did you have to come find him? Is the stuff out? It almost gave me the impression that the photos are out and about and people can kind of just take them.
snag 'em. Okay. So there's no like oversight or anything really
Right.
in this process,
Because you're probably thinking, especially back then, why would somebody take someone's photo that isn't theirs?
right?
And if they did, it was probably an accident. And he can just reprint them, which is what he did. He had them reprinted, but he remembers developing and printing them, but he doesn't remember anyone taking them, but they were gone.
Wow.
So Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance aboard Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas remains one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in modern maritime history. While official theories initially leaned toward an accidental fall or suicide, her family's and many investigators' skepticism have focused attention on potential abduction or trafficking. Now,
Well,
yeah, so the reason for the trafficking has a lot to do with some witnesses that claim to have seen Amy and Yellow. They say they saw her after 5:30.
oh, okay.
Now, the FBI, for whatever reason, according to the family, haven't taken these sightings as seriously because they couldn't confirm the time that it happened. But also, according to the family, the FBI did not interview everyone involved that saw Amy and Yellow, apparently. Two young women said that around 5:30 or 5:45, they saw Amy go up a glass elevator with Yellow to an upper deck, which is where the lounge bar was. They said they saw them go up, and a handful of minutes later, he comes back down by himself. And they said that he walked by them very fast. He looked concerned, worried, like he was very focused on something, or like he looked concerned. And then another woman who says that she was up at the bar around 5:30. So remember, these two women said they saw them go up a glass elevator and disappear into this lounge. There was a woman who says that she was in that lounge. In fact, that she had been in that lounge a lot because she was taking this medication that was making her burn. She couldn't be in the sun. So she's went on this cruise and she just hung out in the lounge all the time.
Wow.
She claims she saw Amy and Yellow come over to the bar, and Yellow made her some kind of drink, handed to her, and then they walked to the back kitchen door and disappeared. She said a few minutes later, a young woman, she said maybe 18, 19, comes running out and shouts out, Senorita kidnapped, Senorita kidnapped.
What?
Yeah. Yes.
Was this in the documentary?
I don't believe this part was in the documentary.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I have to watch again, but I don't believe it was, and I don't know why.
Oh, interesting. I'm like, this is getting me excited to hear about like the astrology of this because that there is some, with a lot of unsolved stories and disappearances and things like that, like you do hear like some conflicting information, which is I think part of the reason why these cases remain unsolved, right? Because we don't have concrete proof, or like certain leads aren't followed and then they go cold. This is strange.
It's very strange. So both claims did not lead to anything, and the only source that I've gotten is that Brad has said that these sources are legitimate. But it also sounds like because this happened on international waters and everyone involved besides the Americans aren't American, there really isn't a whole lot that the FBI can do unless they were gonna work with, well, I guess would be the Dutch government.
Hmm.
The day that Amy disappeared, the ship was to leave Curacao at 5 p.m. to go to its next destination. Now, remember, they had thousands of people on the ship. It wasn't stopping for anyone. So it departed Curacao on time without the Bradleys. At that point, they were thinking that she drowned or would be in the water. So that's where they were looking at that point. So they stayed in a hotel in Curacao.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the mom requested a priest because she wanted a priest to come pray with them that night, and they couldn't find a local priest to do that. But two men came knocking on their door, dressed like naval captains, claiming to be from the Church of Scientology.
Okay.
Be-
What?
because the church's flagship boat mentioned in the documentary about Scientology, the Free Winds. Do you remember that one? They're like made
Yeah.
It was docked on the same port as this cruise ship.
Whoa.
And these two men offered support, but they also asked a bunch of really bizarre questions. Like, what is Amy's favorite food? What kinds of cigarettes does she like to smoke? Why the hell are they asking these questions? Very
That is
bizarre.
crazy.
Yeah. Then they pull out, their like bizarre Scientology gadgets and start doing experiments, have them lay down. They're like applying pressure points and asking weird questions. But apparently it doesn't go very far before Ron Sr. gets up and it's like, what the fuck? Get out of here. Which they did.
Yeah.
And they never heard from them again. But this sparked something in Brad where he remembered the night before at the party that Amy had been talking to two women in naval looking outfits that had long skirts. I don't know if you remember that documentary, Going Clear, but I believe it was like female crew members that would work on the boats sometimes will wear these like long navy skirts and like a button up or something like that. He was saying that he didn't know who they were at the time. He did think it was kind of odd because she was talking to them for like an hour. And just like, who were these women in these uniforms? That was right before the parents went to bed because it was actually when they were saying goodnight. They had to interrupt the conversation that Amy was having with these two women. And they said it was very odd because they kind of were like, hello, nice to meet you. We're going to bed. And the women ignored them. They were very interested in just Amy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting theory. So are we thinking that maybe they could have been Scientologists and they were trying to somehow recruit her?
Could be. I watched some videos of people that had been sought out by Scientologists and wrapped up in it, and they never outright kidnap anybody, from what I understand, but they do, promise this, and that, but you got to come with us, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So who knows? It's an interesting theory. But then I also looked at some Scientology podcasts by former members who were talking about this, and they were saying that they don't believe that Scientologists had anything to do with it. That yes, they were docked there, but the kind of weird stuff they were doing when the two men came to the room, they said that's very basic. Like when someone goes missing or something bad happens for someone, this is a normal procedure. And these are ex-Scientologists, so they're not trying to protect anyone, I guess, but they didn't seem to be concerned by any of this. And then when asked about the two women, those two women were apparently women of color. they were black women.
Okay.
And the Scientology people are saying there's no way that two black women back then would be in those outfits. They would not be on that at that level. But then when I Googled images of the outfits that people wear when they work on these cruise ships, I saw black women.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take what those Scientologists said with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Because who knows who they're protecting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're protecting anyone, but I also think that they're only coming from their experience. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Strange. Wow.
Very
This
strange.
is very bizarre.
Well, there's more. So, multiple potential sightings and tips have been reported in the months and years following her disappearance, none of which have been confirmed. The first, though, was a taxi driver in Curacao reported seeing a barefoot woman matching Amy's description searching for a phone shortly after the ship docked on March 24th, 1998. He said that she was looking for a phone. He pointed one way and she ran the other direction. And that's why he remembered it so well. He was like, she seemed really disoriented.
Weird.
Yeah. In August 1998, two Canadian divers claimed they saw a woman with Amy's tattoos accompanied by two men. One matched the description of Douglas, that's yellow. They alleged she seemed distressed and tried to get their attention. So those tattoos are, she has a Tasmanian devil tattoo on her shoulder,
Okay.
very um,
Lesbian.
late
I
90s.
don't know.
I don't know. In January of 99, a U.S. Navy officer claimed a woman identifying herself as Amy in a Curacao brothel asked for help, saying she was being held against her will. He didn't know anything about Amy Bradley. She identified herself as such.
She
Apparently,
identified herself as Amy Bradley.
that's what he says. He says that she said, "My name is Amy
Oh,
Bradley." Yep, I know. And it was in this
wild.
brothel. She said that she was being held up against her will because she owed somebody money that she had strayed away from her ship to go buy drugs, and that she was being held by these people. But she said something about like because she owes them $200. It was very bizarre. It's like at this point, that's what, like 2 years later, a year and a half later, you're being held by some for $200. I don't know. That's the thing, is that all these sightings, like it doesn't fully add up either, like what is being said by this so-called person that might be Amy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the thing is, he also didn't report it because he was a US Navy officer, and if he reported it, then it would out the fact that he went to a brothel. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years later, I think it was 2003, when he reported it because he saw Amy's face on the cover of a People magazine and was like, "Oh my God, that's that woman from that brothel." And I guess at that point he wasn't in the Navy anymore, so he felt it was easier for him to come forward. But what I find interesting about that case is that the family seems to be, especially Brad, is like, there's no way she was going to get drugs. She didn't do drugs, blah, blah, blah. I never, ever trust anyone that says that someone didn't do drugs, ever. Like,
Yeah.
ex-girlfriends also said she didn't do drugs. I'm like, okay, anyone is capable of anything. And this person clearly was someone that was okay with living a double life at that time anyway. So she would be okay with hiding her drug use from other people. How
Oh
was she
yeah.
staying up till 5:30 in the morning?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Oh, here's another thing. There's a video of her dancing in the nightclub in 1998. She's doing all these like rave moves. I went to raves in the 90s. You go to raves to do drugs. She's been to a rave. I've seen some of these pictures of her. She had bleach blonde hair in a couple of them,
Whoa.
and she was wearing like a polo. I'm like, that is a lesbian I would see at the rave. You'd be like walking by her, and she'd be smoking her Parliament like this and like doing
Oh,
rave dances.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, like that
Oh
is
my
what
God.
Amy Bradley was basically doing in these videos. She's done drugs before. So maybe she wasn't an addict, but she was a 23-year-old who had a very adventurous spirit.
And like you said, was okay with living a double life. So,
Yeah,
code
exactly.
switching, like in the queer community and in like the POC community and all, like code switching is just a thing people do. And like it's not just code switching your queerness, like it extends to other aspects of your life. you become really good at hiding stuff. So like, yeah, I would totally believe that she did drugs. Like,
Yeah.
why not?
One last bit before we look at the astrology. There have just been numerous sightings over the years, some more legitimate than others, but this one big one of note happened around 2009. The Bradley family were alerted about a picture from a sex website of a woman that people were alleging was Amy. The FBI did some kind of photo forensic search on it and said it was a high probability that it's Amy. There are some people saying that the FBI never really did a forensic search, that it was an independent retired FBI agent that did this for the family pro bono, or maybe they paid him.
Okay.
This is the picture of the woman they claim to be Amy.
Okay.
What do you think?
It's hard because the hair is totally different. So this is like obviously years later.
There are other photos besides this one attached to it that show her back and her stomach, and those tattoos that Amy had are not in the photo.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my question.
Yeah. People were like, well, they probably covered them up with makeup. I'm like, okay, maybe. My instincts were like, no, I don't think this is her. And then I found an interview that came out less than a week ago of a woman who says they know who this woman is and that it's not Amy Bradley. It's a woman named Jas, Jas.
Okay. I would say that it's not her. Just
Yeah.
based on like just looking at like the nose looks different. I feel like the lips are
Let
different.
me get a side by side.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
When you really look at them side by side, you're like, I mean, they look related at least, but like the distance between her eyes and her nose and her mouth is all very much like this woman.
Yeah. Ugh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. But also like where's Jazz? Where's she?
Where's Jazz? Right.
Like
Can't
it
she
like
answer for herself?
like has she been found? Has she been, or is she still out there? This is so strange.
So, and then the other thing they said that the ear comparison, which is the hardest thing to match, is her ears. But that's what they say. I don't know. Before we get look at the chart, because the only person who's ever really been suspected of anything is Yellow. I'm just gonna stop the show. Yeah, Yellow's the only one that's ever been a suspect. There's not really a whole lot they can do. He has to voluntarily give himself up for questioning, and he's actually been doing interviews on different podcasts over the last couple of weeks. And he
Oh
said
boy.
some interesting things that don't really make sense to me. So I'm curious what you think, and then we'll look at the astrology. Yellow has said in the interview and in the documentary that he went up to his room at 1 a.m. But Brad has been going on podcasts saying that it was actually 3:35, that he went up at the same time as they did, that Yellow had been hanging out with all of them the whole time. And he said that the official data that the FBI have is 3:35 and that 1 a.m. is not correct.
Hmm.
So he's lying about that, apparently, according to Brad. And then the last detail, and this is something that Brad said recently in a podcast, he said that when they went back to Curacao, like a couple weeks after the whole disappearance happened, they held a press conference. And shortly after the press conference, a man came up to Brad and Ron and said, "Are you the father of the missing girl?" And Ron said yes. And the man gets very close to them and he says, very sincerely and very quiet, "Your daughter did not fall off that ship. She is on this island, and I can tell you 3 places you can go, but you must not make a scene. Go quietly and just observe." And they did. And of course, they didn't find her.
But you found this out from Brad Bradley on a pod.
Yeah, on a podcast that he did like a week ago.
So so these people are like coming out of the woodwork now and they're talking because this documentary is out.
They're going on all the podcasts because that's what everybody does now. They're putting all of their last resources into this, trying to find her. Apparently, Kim Kardashian posted about it last week, and Bradley and Kim Kardashian have been exchanging DMs. He's apparently trying to get the attention of Rihanna right now because she's from Barbados.
Wow.
Yeah. Shall we look at the astrology?
Yes, I'm dying to know. What information did you put in to get these charts? Did you put in like Amy Bradley's birth chart, or was it like
Yeah.
the date that she went missing, or was it both? And did you like overlay that? Like, how did you like, what's your process behind it?
So basically, we're looking at crime charts or
Okay.
forensic astrology. And what that is like you're looking at an event chart. So a moment something may have happened.
Yeah.
And then we are applying horary astrology rules to it. Now, horary astrology is a branch of astrology that is used to answer questions. Where's my lost dog? When am I going to get married? Am I ever going to find love? And they would use certain techniques to look at the chart to find answers. So I apply similar techniques, but to the event charts to look at clues, like what is this telling us? When it comes to missing cases, when a person is missing, I think the best chart to look at is the last time they were seen. That's a good time to cast the chart. That's the main chart we're using for the event. But then I also looked at Amy's birth chart to look at what was going on at that moment too. So I will put this chart over her chart after we look at every aspect of this chart.
Cool.
For anyone not watching and only listening, I want to be able to describe what chart we're looking at in front of us. So the chart is cast for March 24th, 1998 at 5:30 a.m. in Curacao. We look at the rising sign and we see what rules the rising sign, and that planet is going to be the signifier of the missing person.
Okay.
So the rising sign is Pisces, water sign, kind of perfect. So that means that Jupiter is the signifier for Amy. Jupiter is in Pisces, but it's in the 12th house, conjunct the South Node. There's a lot we can say about that right there, and I will, but I want to also describe the rest of the chart. The second signifier you look at, so you always have your main signifier, which is that chart ruler, is the missing person. But then you also look at the moon as a second signifier. So the moon also represents the missing person. So what's going on there? The moon is in Aquarius, conjunct Uranus. There's a lot going on right there. Also in the 12th house. In fact, we've got Uranus, the moon, Venus, the south node, and Jupiter in the 12th house. Then looking at the first house, which I already said was ruled by Pisces, that's only the first half of the house. Then we have the sun in Aries in the first house at 3 degrees, and then Mars at 15 degrees at the very end of the first house. The second house is also Aries. And right at the beginning of the house, we have Mercury and Saturn conjunct. And then we go all the way up to the top of the chart. So this is a very like left side of the chart focus. It's all
Yeah.
concentrated on the left. But then you have Pluto at the very, very top of the chart at 8 degrees Sagittarius. And then the last planet is Neptune, and that's in the 11th house. So that is the chart we're looking at. It's very fitting that the first house is ruled by water. Jupiter representing Amy feels right because several things. She just got her education degree. She was a teacher. She was going to be a teacher. Jupiter is associated with teaching. The sun is exalted in Aries, meaning that the sun does very, very well in Aries. Mars is home in Aries. So you've got these two planets in the first house that are very well placed, which is interesting because when I've looked at charts of missing people where the person ended up dead, you don't have so many well-placed planets. Jupiter in Pisces, Jupiter likes to be in Pisces. I don't know. It immediately made me think she might be alive.
I'm kind of leaning that way too, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's some of the symbolism that sun in the first house with Mars and Aries. You know, she was starting fresh in a lot of ways. She was all these new beginnings. She had just gotten a new job. She just bought a new dog that she hadn't even brought home yet, a pit bull. She had just bought an apartment that she was beginning to furnish. So it was like new beginning,
Wow.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this is fresh face, amped up, ready to go, a person in their prime. Now, this is interesting. I don't have this on the chart, but and I don't use fixed stars in natal astrology. I don't really use fixed stars very often, but I do think fixed stars in crime charts are very revealing. They're very specific. If you have any fixed stars that are conjunct any major planets, it's going to give you information. There are a lot of fixed stars that are saying something conjunct some of these planets. And so we're just going to go around and talk about it. The first fixed star is called Difta, and it's conjunct the sun. And
Okay.
Difta is all about self-destruction, misfortune, and forced change. Forced change.
Okay.
Yeah. It can indicate physical limitations. Conjunct the sun can mean someone who is mentally uncomfortable, feeling weak. It can often involve accidents involving fire. The first time I looked at this chart and I saw that Mars, the first thing I thought about were those cigarettes. The fact that those cigarettes are gone, and she said she needed to buy cigarettes, that's why she left. That's probably initially why she left,
But like,
right?
why did she leave her sandals behind?
Because she didn't want to make any noise leaving the cabin. She
Oh,
was probably like trying to tiptoe, right?
makes sense.
So I just feel like the cigarettes are a big part of the story. I don't know. I just feel like they are.
Yeah.
There's a fixed star that is conjunct Mars. Mars is all about action and motivation. This fixed star is called Alpharats. Alpharats. It is all about popularity, independence, and is actually considered lucky. She was popular on that boat. Independence. It just makes me feel like breaking away from the family, right?
Yeah.
I want to look at Pluto at the top of the chart in the ninth house in Sagittarius. Pluto as a planet is about the underground. It's about dark stuff. It can be about organized crime. It can be about like rape. It can be about like just the heaviest of heavy things. And it's making a loose square to that Jupiter conjunct the South Node.
Okay.
Pluto had just stationed to go retrograde.
Okay.
And when a planet is stationing and it's at the same degree for a long period of time, so it was at that 8 degrees for about a week and several days after this. So it's very potent. So it's just like screaming Pluto. Pluto being about possible abduction, but also destructive behavior. Like that's another
Yeah.
thing. Maybe because Jupiter representing Amy, Jupiter also rules Sagittarius. Pluto's in Sagittarius. So technically, that Jupiter is ruling that Pluto, which could be interpreted as maybe not necessarily being abducted, but self destructive behavior leading to something.
Yeah.
Just a thought. And then also because the South Node can often be associated with bad habits, self-destructive behavior. It's conjunct Jupiter. So it's like when they tell me that she wasn't doing drugs, that's the one thing I feel very strongly about. I don't believe for a second that she was not, that she was only drinking beer. I don't believe that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the big question mark is where would she get drugs on the ship?
Well,
On
remember they were just docking. To me, it's more likely there's some kind of drug trafficking ring going on than a prostitution ring, especially with like a white woman, a white
Yeah.
American woman. I mean, if you Google it, there's no known cases of white American women being trafficked and then escaping or living to tell about their experience. I watch interviews with people who specialize in sex trafficking, and most of them say, women aren't kidnapped. Usually, and they often aren't white women out there, and they're lured in, because of drugs, because
Yeah.
of maybe not being happy in the family. It's hard when like the main source of the information you're getting is from the family because they're only going to know a certain side of a person.
Yeah, like I said, it's like they didn't respond positively when she attempted to come out. So
Right.
of course she's not gonna, of course there's gonna be things that they don't know about her because she's already had this experience where she doesn't feel like she can trust them with knowing who she is entirely. So yeah,
Right.
I'm sure that there are things the family just does not know about her life. Family testimony and family secrets is, I think, a big reason why the John Benet Ramsey case has never been solved. And I can't help but circle back to this whole like idea of forced change. Um,
Hmm.
that to me feels very telling, maybe she was abducted.
Yeah, well, listen to this. So if we are to say that yellow is the perpetrator, whoever the perpetrator might be, if there's a perpetrator, they would be represented by the descendant, which is on the opposite side of the first house. And that planet, that's in Virgo,
Hmm.
sign of Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, which is over here. Mercury in Aries, conjunct Saturn in Aries. Mercury is about transportation, movement, point A to point B, transmitting something. But Mercury is also the trickster planet. Like it's associated with trickster energy. And Saturn's about limitations. And then being in the second house can be about money and assets, making money. There's an argument to be made here that he was involved, or whoever is involved, you know, was selling her or, using her in some kind of way.
Yeah.
There's a fixed star that's conjunct that Saturn and Mercury as well.
Hmm.
And that fixed star is called Baton Katos. Baton Katos, Baton
Hmm.
Katos. And this fixed star is associated with changes of residence, migration, and shipwrecks.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is very specific.
Uh-huh. I know. Migration, changes of residence. It just keeps pointing to like, yeah, being transported, moved.
Wow.
That Jupiter and South Node, they also have a fixed star conjunct them. This fixed star is called Antares, and it's also referred to as the heart of the scorpion. This fixed star denotes evil, destructiveness, bad omens, danger of death, greed, and self destruction. Jupiter in Pisces is home. I mean, that's Jupiter rules Pisces. So you think, oh, well, this is like, that gives it dignity. That gives it some hope of being alive. But then you have the South Node, which again can be about bad habits or things from the past, kind of like coming up in a negative way, squaring that Pluto, which is already about self-destruction and danger. And then this fixed star that is very similar to Pluto that feels like she's kind of surrounded or she like doesn't really have a whole lot of options here.
Yeah.
And then Neptune. Neptune is in the 11th. Now, Neptune is sextiling the sun. Neptune's about confusion, alcohol, drugs, when things are hazy, not really understanding what's going on. And so to me, it's just kind of like giving us a general idea of the evening being about drunkenness. There's a fixed star conjunct Neptune.
Hmm.
And this fixed star is called Altair. Altair is associated with sudden yet temporary fortune, impulsiveness, and accidents.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. And
Um,
then we get to the moon as the second indicator of Amy being conjunct Uranus, which is associated with sudden change, possible accidents. But really, the thing about Uranus that I think of is like going from something being one thing and then within a matter of a second being something else. And also, Uranus rules unexpected things. It's often like when Uranus is involved, it can be an option we haven't even thought of, or that's not even being considered. Kind of like lightning out of nowhere. And then, of course, Uranus is conjunct a fixed star, and this one is called Albali. And this
mhm.
one is all about danger and potential cruelty, even death.
Wow.
So she had a lot of cards stacked up against her.
Sure did.
There was one video of one of the psychics that rang true to me only because it was how I was imagining it in my own head. And I don't know that that means anything at all. But just based on this, it just made me think of it that she went to go like get stoned, like let's go smoke some weed in the kitchen with the staff. We'll get you some pills or whatever. And something happened, like she had a bad reaction to something. Maybe she did pass away, but I don't know. Or maybe she was abducted. And maybe she was abducted by a third party altogether, like being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And all of a sudden, somebody comes out of nowhere to take her away. I mean, that would go along with that woman screaming, Senorita kidnap, Senorita kidnap in the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Another thing that could have happened is, maybe she did go to do drugs with the staff and maybe maybe something bad happened, like she had a bad reaction or OD'd on something, because we don't
Yeah,
know what kind, if she was going to get drugs, we don't even know what kind of drugs would have been available on the boat. But like, what if the staff, what if she like OD'd and died on the staff and they were like, we got to get rid of this body. And they just
I
like
thought about that too.
her overboard or something. But they would have found her is the thing. Like they would have found her.
Right.
If they combed the water. I don't know. I just feel like they would have found her.
All right, let's look at her birth chart real quick. Now, we don't know what time she was born, so I set it for 6 a.m. because that way it conjuncts the sun, and then we don't even have to think about what the rising sign is. It's conjunct the sun. She was born on May 12th, 1974, in Petersburg, Virginia. She was a Taurus sun or is a Taurus sun. Her moon would be in either Capricorn or Aquarius, depending on what time she was born. Says to me probably more likely Capricorn because that would be a person who it's easier to hide things or want to keep up with traditions, want to keep up with appearances.
Yeah.
Venus in Aries rules her Taurus sun, so it speaks to her being athletic, outgoing, and when the Venus ruled by Mars in Cancer. Now, Mars does not like being in Cancer. That is a weak place for Mars to be, which would say that she doesn't, at least in youth, probably wouldn't have the greatest willpower. And her experiences with men were probably shit. She probably had some shitty men in her life. She was having her Jupiter return, which is interesting. So, because her Jupiter is in Pisces, and she was having a 12th house perfected year, which 12th house perfected years are like the most, next to the 8th house, some of the most difficult years you can have. But just interesting that she had that pile up in the event chart is in the 12th house. And then she's having a 12th house year. Having a 12th house year can speak to having all of these things not being present in that moment, kind of like things happening behind the scenes that you're not aware of at the moment, or they're like percolating. It could be you have secret that you don't want, that you haven't come to terms with revealing yet, or you're planning something that's not for everyone yet. Having a 12th house year can also be literal imprisonment, going to
Yeah.
jail, having a mental breakdown, psychological issues. These things can happen in a 12th house year. So I thought that was interesting. Event chart around her. So Neptune was conjunct her moon, which uh if you're drinking alcohol and Neptune is conjunct your moon, I would be very concerned about what choices you're making because you're not going to make the clearest choices.
Okay.
Um, Mars was squaring her Mars. To me, that speaks to some kind of conflict, whether
You
it
said
be with
Mars was squaring her Mars?
yeah, so transiting Mars up here was squaring her Mars, and that could be a conflict with a man. It could be a conflict with herself. It could be, but there was some kind of conflict going on.
Yeah.
And then that Jupiter South Node conjunction is trining that Mars again, and so that makes me feel like she's making poor choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the major things. We could go on. I'm sure there's more to it, but
This is a lot.
it's a lot.
So what do you think happened?
Ah, well, I definitely believe that there were drugs involved. I do think she went off on her own. Whether that means she really knew what was going to happen next or not, I'm not sure. I feel like there was some kind of deception that happened. The fact that there was some real dignified stuff in the event chart
Yeah.
makes me feel like she is alive. If she was drugged, did someone take her and then did she wake up way later after the fact and then she tried to escape and like I don't know. I mean, it could be a whole Alice in Wonderland of bad luck, you know.
Yeah.
Based on everything that you've learned today, what the heck do you think?
Oh boy. Um, I don't want to make the assumption that she was going to get drugs necessarily, but you know, even if even if that is taken out of the conversation, I mean, like she very obviously was running low on cigarettes or out of cigarettes. She had mentioned that she wanted cigarettes and that she needed to get cigarettes. Like I don't know what the process of docking a ship is. Like, I don't know in what part of the docking process people are able to exit the boat. I don't know if like she went somewhere on the boat to try to get cigarettes or she tried to bum cigarettes off of somebody or maybe she like ran into a crew member who was like, "Oh, there's a store like a 5-minute walk from where we are docking that has sell cigarettes. Like, well, I'll take you." I think that whether it was drugs or cigarettes, searching for substances of some
Yeah.
sort was probably the reason why she went on this little adventure that turned into her disappearing. And I think just given the astrology and what you have laid out, I also feel like I don't want to say that I think she's still alive, but I don't think that she died. I don't think her disappearance was due to her death.
Mm,
Like I
right.
don't
She
I
might
don't
have passed away
I don't think she
since,
I
but
don't think she disappeared because she died. I think that there was a series of unfortunate events that led to her getting separated from her family and, going missing. I don't know. I really don't know. I just feel like if it was an accident, we would have found her,
yeah,
or they would have found her.
I think so too.
And I think the astrology points to that as well. I think the
Yeah,
charts point to that.
I agree. Does seem to be a lot of stuff pointing to drug use or an accident involving drugs. And that also made me think, well, Jupiter in Pisces, which is likes to be in, and Mars in Aries, which it likes to be in, the Sun in Aries, which it loves to be in, makes me think that if there was ill intention, i.e., being trafficked, raped, whatever, and she was drugged, maybe
Mhm.
something made her pass away before the bad stuff could even happen. So she doesn't even almost wasn't even aware that anything bad was happening to her, right? Like she takes a drink and everything just starts to get blurry and she's just confused and then that's it. Because that
Yeah,
would mean an easier, less painful, traumatic death. And that would speak to these planets being more in dignity, like not a violent death, but like, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah,
Final thoughts.
yeah. I think that given the astrology, given the strange circumstances surrounding her disappearance and what she left behind, and the Scientology aspect of it, I mean, like, listen, Scientologists are really good at disappearing people. I mean, just look at Shelley Miscavige. No, she still has not been found.
Still.
Still. I
Wow.
actually just Googled it to make sure that just to see, and she
Yeah.
still has not been found.
And also because the feds, they're not they never saw the Scientology angle as credible, and they also apparently never interviewed anyone, looked into it.
I'm just gonna listen. I'm just gonna go rogue and say that she was captured by Scientologists and that she's hanging out with David Miscavige's wife. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay. Honestly, the only thing that I could really say definitively that I believe with all of my being is that she didn't fall
No,
over.
I don't think so either. I don't
Yeah.
think so either.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
They would have found her
They would have found her. And she went out looking for something. What that is,
or someone.
or someone, maybe we'll never know. Maybe we will. If we do, we're going to be back talking about it.
I love looking at the astrology and seeing what it's telling us about the situation because I feel like it does give some clarity. And not to
Hmm.
keep driving home the Scientology angle, but if that is an avenue that wasn't fully explored, then like we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know. And this case is really hot right now. So we very well might get some leads in the next handful of weeks, months. And if we do, we're going to be back here talking about it.
Oh yeah. And maybe the listeners can tell us what they want to hear next in terms of unsolved cases. Be
Yeah,
curious.
and if anywhere you're streaming this, in the comments section, if you find this on social media in the comment section, wherever, let us know what you want us to explore. And also let us know what you think might have happened. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear people's theories.
Thanks for having me on and yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, you too.